Okay, welcome everybody. We're getting started right now. My name's Kevin Sparks, and first thing I want to go ahead and do is share some things with you really quickly that will help you as you participate with us and going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly. Oops, wrong piece. Okay, hang on a second. All right, share screen, right spot, boom. Okay, here we go. So what I want to share with you here real quick is we have a Facebook group that coincides with these daily meetup meetings that we have through Zoom. So we meet Monday through Friday, and we go through different topics and discussions around how to attract into your life the money and wealth that you really want. And what we do here in this particular Facebook group is this is where you can do a few things. One, you can find out more about the group. What I did is I put a video here under announcement, and under announcement, you may have seen it already. Hopefully it's was one that you got sent to you after you joined the meetup. But if you didn't and you want to know more of what the group's about or more about myself and my background, you could go ahead and go right there. That way I don't have to spend so much time each day when new people come explaining what we're doing and what's going on. The other thing that we do is we record the meetings as long as I remember. I usually do. Um, and we make them available to you. So let's say, for instance, we're in the process of studying something, you're really into it, and there's a particular day that you're not able to make it. You can jump into the Facebook group, and typically within somewhere between 24 hours or less, you'll have access to the video from the day before. So you can go get caught up on things if you like to. It's also another place where we can interact with each other outside of the time we spend together each day. So it's called I Want to Be, it's the exact same name as the meetup group. You can search for it. I Want to Be Really Rich, and I do not apologize for it. And the URL is facebook.com/groups/ I Want to Be Really Rich. So that's how you can find it. Feel free to come join us. Again, you'll have access to the recordings. You'll be able to interact some more, and we'll be happy to have you with us. Okay, next thing I want to go ahead and do is share with you a particular book that we're going through at the moment, doing some work with this. This particular book is called The Science of Getting Rich. And we've been going through it for a few days now. We're probably halfway-ish through it. I don't remember exactly what chapter number this one is. Um, However, The Science of Getting Rich, let me give you just a quick little bit of background on the book, why I feel that it is a good idea for us to do this together, and what it might be, why it might be of interest to you. The Science of Getting Rich was originally written actually originally published, I should say, in 1910 by a gentleman by the name of Wallace Wattles. Now, if you've heard of the book or the movie The Secret, the book or the movie The Secret, that was created by Rhonda Byrne. Rhonda Byrne created the book and the movie The Secret because she was given the book The Science of Getting Rich by her daughter, and the book had such an impact on her. That was kind of her start in looking into the law of attraction and how it worked. And so it had such an impact on her, she wanted to share the ideas with the world, so she created the book and the movie The Secret. Okay. I personally have been mentored and trained by lots of different people, but as far as two people that have probably had the biggest impact on my life in helping me earn more money, create more wealth, and understand business, entrepreneurship, investing, and so forth, I'll bring up two different gentlemen. One doesn't talk law of attraction all that much, although I know he has a belief in it, and one talks it all the time. One is a gentleman by the name of Robert Kiyosaki. I've had the chance to work directly with Robert Kiyosaki, and who was his partner at the time, Sharon Lechter, over at Rich Dad Companies. Who's Robert Kiyosaki? He's the author of a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad that you might have heard of, or you might have heard of The Cash Flow Game. Anyhow, he actually asked me to be an advisor to him. This was years ago, and help him grow his business, his company. And in the process of doing that, I got to be around him and Sharon and their team, and I learned a lot. And it definitely had an impact on me. Uh, Another person, big impact, is somebody that I have actually hired at one point to be my coach. And also, I've become a coach for their programs before I became independent and do what I do. That's a gentleman by the name of Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor, you may have heard of his book, You're Born Rich. If you don't know him from that, if you've seen the movie The Secret or read the book The Secret, he's highlighted there. Bob Proctor currently is been in the personal development field since age 27. Age 27 is when he started out into personal development. He is now 86 or 87 years old. So we're talking about 60 years. He's probably the foremost authority on understanding how the laws of the universe work, how law of attraction works, and how our mind functions, especially at a subconscious level. So Bob is someone who's had a big impact on me. Like I said, I hired him to be my coach. I was trained also to coach for his programs, and I'm independent now, still have relationships with other coaches within Bob Proctor's sphere of influence that I'm friends with. Bob was given this book, The Science of Getting Rich, by two people that did mentor him, Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant. Depending on your age, you may or may not have ever heard of these gentlemen. But Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant created the Nightingale Conant Corporation. And what were they, or who are they? They were basically the first producer of self-help and personal development materials on a regular basis. So Bob had the opportunity to work together with them and be mentored by them. And what happened is Lloyd Conant received, I'm not sure where he got it, but he received this book, The Science of Getting Rich, got together with Earl Nightingale, and they studied that book together, and they made up their mind that they were going to create the Nightingale Conant Corporation. So this book has had an impact on many people's lives. You can get a copy for yourself very easily. You can find a paperback copy, you can get a Kindle copy. What I did to make it easy, because I wanted a copy I could share with you guys at the same time, I already have the others, but I just went and Googled Science of Getting Rich PDF. And one of the first things that came up organically was thesecret.tv, and then some other things related to Science of Getting Rich. And I knew thesecret.tv was Rhonda Byrne's website, so I knew it'd be good. Clicked on it, and bam, there was the Science of Getting Rich being offered for free. So I went ahead and downloaded it, and that's the copy you're seeing in front of you that you're going to see as we go through today. If you want to go get a copy for free, either to catch up at some point and or follow along with what we're doing, just do the same thing that I did. You can go to type in Science of Getting Rich PDF. Organically, I think the secret.tv one is the source that's going to come up organically with number 1 or 2. And if you go get it and download it, we are on page 46 of 47. I don't know if that's the page of the book, but I do know that's the page of the PDF file. Okay. So here's how we're going to go ahead and roll today. What we're going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of reading out of the book. That's not what we're going to do the whole time. I'll also add some commentary where I feel it might be helpful or appropriate. As we go through this material together, what I would like to do is leave the end part of what we do today, usually the last 10 to 15 minutes of what we do, for an opportunity to interact with each other. That way you can share your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas, your experiences, your aha moments, whatever it is that you want to share, either in relationship to what we're studying, or at least in the relationship to manifesting money and wealth and riches into our life. The other thing you can do is you can ask questions. So we will do that. And then when our 45 minutes together is over, what we've done a few different days is there's usually people that still want to talk and have more questions. We'll call an end to the meeting and call it done. So those of you who need to take off and do other things, totally cool. Don't want to keep you, want to be respectful of your time, but I may hang on for another 5 to 15 minutes or so. If you like what's going on and you want to be a part of that, I'll still be here for 5 to 15 minutes. All right. If you guys type anything into chat right now, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not paying attention to chat. That way I don't get sidetracked from what we're doing. you'll have the opportunity to ask questions and interact with me when we get to that part. If there's something that you can put into chat, maybe other people will see it and respond to you. I don't know. But I won't be until we're ready to do that. All right, so that's the ground rules sort of for what's going on. And let's get rolling with this. By the way, Wallace Wattles, again, wrote the book and it was published in 1910. So understand that the way that, this book was written and the way that he speaks is par for course for the era of the time in which he lived, and isn't exactly the way that we speak and write today. Don't let that bother you. Just follow along and get from it what you can. For the most part, you'll be able to get everything. And I may go back and again give some commentary to help you understand some of what we're going through. Further use of the will. So yesterday we were talking about how we're supposed to use the will. I'm not going to repeat that right now. What you guys can do, again, go into the Facebook group and or download the book and or go buy the book or whatever and read the previous chapter, okay? But we had a pretty good discussion about that yesterday. You might want to go watch the recording. Further use of the will. It's definitely an important topic. So Wallace Wattles is giving us more instruction about how to do that in manifesting what it is that we want in our lives. You cannot retain a true and clear vision of wealth if you're constantly turning your attention to opposing pictures, whether they be external or imaginary. Do not tell of your past troubles of a financial nature if you have had them. Do not think of them at all. Do not tell of the poverty of your parents or the hardships of your early life. To do any of those things is to mentally class yourself with the poor for the time being, and it will certainly check the movement of things in your direction. Let the dead bury their dead, Jesus said. Put poverty and all things that pertain to poverty completely behind you. You have accepted a certain theory of the universe as being correct and are resting all your hopes of happiness on its being correct. And what can you gain by giving heed to conflicting theories? Do not read religious books which tell you the world is soon coming to an end, and do not read the writing of the muckrakers and pessimistic philosophers who tell you that it is going to the devil. The world's not going to the devil, it's going to God. It's a wonderful becoming. By the way, that is one of the things that this particular book, I didn't mention my experience with it, briefly my experience. I was given the book and went to a seminar, 3-day seminar called The Science of Getting Rich, taught by a gal by the name of Leslie Householder, who was one of Bob Proctor's coaches and facilitators at the time. After diving into that material for 3 days, I was completely blown away. And I was given a self-study, additional material to study that was done by Bob Proctor, that I had a workbook and audios and things to go through. I took that material and over about the next 90 days, probably spent somewhere between 1 to 3 hours a day delving into that material on a deep level. Came out of that experience, and April 1st of the given year that I did that, I was able to quit my job. I had my job, I was making $5,000 to $6,000 a month. And Bob Proctor had mentioned many times he did, he mentioned it, I heard it many times is more the way to put it. And I started to wonder what that would be like. He said, what would it be like if your annual income became your monthly income? Interestingly enough, didn't quite accomplish that. But what happened was over the next 8 months of the year, my income absolutely did increase. My income went from that $5,000 to $6,000 a month to an average over the next 8 months of $50,000. So I can tell you that my personal experience with this book too has been very powerful. So that is why I feel like I wanted to share it with you. It's not the only thing we're going to talk about going forward into the future, but it was something I wanted to start out with because I think if you get the spirit of it, it could have an impact pretty quickly for you. True, there may be a good many things in existing conditions which are disagreeable. But what is the use of studying them when they're certainly passing away? And when the study of them only tends to check their passing and keep them with us? Why give time and attention to things which are being removed by evolutionary growth when you can hasten their removal only by promoting the evolutionary growth as far as your part of it goes? No matter how horrible in seeming may be the conditions in certain countries, sections, or places, you waste your time and destroy your own chances by considering them. And by considering, meaning thinking of them over and over and over, putting those images of waste and destruction and poverty and into your mind, that you're causing yourself problems. Okay, you really are, with how you feel. And how you feel from your thoughts is going to determine a lot about what you receive back in life. You should interest yourself in the world's becoming rich. Think of the riches the world is coming into instead of the poverty it is growing out of. And bear in mind that the only way in which you can assist the world in growing rich is by growing rich yourself through the creative method, not the competitive one. And we talked about that a few chapters ago, maybe 2 or 3 chapters ago. Give your attention wholly to riches, ignore poverty. Okay, so for those of you who are new today, you may obviously we're talking about, and that's what this group is about, right? We're not embarrassed by the fact that we want to have a lot of money, and we're not embarrassed by the fact that we want to be rich. Okay. However, it says give your attention wholly to riches, ignore poverty. Let's talk about why we want money in the first place really quick. Okay. We have the ability to become more than we currently are, to do more than we've currently done, and to have more than we currently have. Okay. I'm not talking about a big accumulation of stuff. All right. I'm talking about developing into who we are capable of becoming. I'll keep this really brief. It's an analogy, but you need money in order to have the use of things. Okay. And to have the ownership of things. Without the use of things and the ownership of things, we're not able to develop completely. Quick example, a young girl, who knows what her age is, we could say 4 or 5 years old, has this desire to play the piano. She loves music and she lives in a household with no piano. Okay. There's no piano in the household, and she lives in a neighborhood where maybe the neighbors don't have a piano either. Okay. Or she lives in a household where the family can't afford to get her piano lessons, so she really doesn't have the opportunity to play the piano. But she has this urge inside that's pushing and tugging and saying, this is something she feels, even though she's young, that she really wants to do. Without the use of a piano, she can't do it though. You know what we may never find out? This girl, potentially, given the right opportunity to play the piano, to study the piano, to possibly get some lessons, some training, could become one of the greatest concert pianists the world's ever known. But we're not going to know that. Why? Because of money. Well, what's money have to do with it? Well, it's money that's going to pay for the piano. Okay. If they don't have the money to buy a piano, they're not going to have a piano. You know, unless somebody else buys a piano and gives it to them, they're not going to have a piano. Unless a neighbor chooses to go out because they have more money and they want to play the piano and own a piano, they buy a piano. Unless the neighbor allows them to use their piano, this girl's not going to get the opportunity to play the piano. But she's going to have an urge. She's going to have a hurt. She's going to have a hole inside of her because something inside of her, which is that natural ability that she could develop, is being squashed by lack of money. It's the money because she doesn't have the use of the piano. Well, she's not old enough to earn money, probably, but she doesn't have money, or her family doesn't, to buy that piano. So why is it that we really want money? It's not because we want a stash of cash. Okay. We don't want to be impeded in our progression of becoming what we can become, of doing what we truly want to do, and of having what we truly want to have. Those experiences that can only happen in our life by using things. And we can only have the free and unrestricted use of things when we have more than enough money to pay for those things and or be able to rent those things and have the use of them. So we have to have ownership or the ability to get somebody else who owns it to let us use it. And usually, well, typically, almost always, money is going to be involved in that. Okay. So that's why you want to give your attention wholly to riches, to learning this science, the science of getting rich, so that you can manifest what you need, so that you can therefore go and unfold and become all that you're capable of becoming. And you really should not be paying attention to poverty. Okay. That's the opposite thing of what you should be thinking about. Whenever you think or speak of those who are poor, think and speak of them as those who are becoming rich, as those who are to be congratulated rather than pitied. Then they and others will catch the inspiration and begin to search for a way out. Because I say that you are to give your whole time and mind and thought to riches, it does not follow that you're to be sordid or mean. To become really rich is the noblest aim you can have in life, for it includes everything else. On the competitive plane, the struggle to get rich is a godless scramble for power over other men. But when we become rich, but when we come into the creative mind, all this is changed. So there's a difference between being competitive and being creative. And this book is teaching us, it's shown us some things already, but it's going to teach us the how of doing that too. Okay. But when we actually become rich creatively, we do not impede anybody else's progress. We don't step on people. We don't crawl over the top of people. We don't kick the ladder down so other people can't climb up. Okay. We don't act like the crab trying to pull another crab back into the bucket. We create, and we're being taught how to do that. When we compete, we always have the fear of loss and that there won't be enough. Even if we win for now, there's always the fear that we'll lose later. Okay. And that creates that godless scramble for power over other people. All that is possible in the way of greatness and soul unfoldment, of service and lofty endeavor, comes by the way of getting rich. All is made possible by the use of things. If you lack for physical health, you will find that the attainment of it is conditional on you getting rich. Only those who are emancipated from financial worry, who have the means to live a carefree existence and follow hygienic practices, can have and retain health. Interestingly enough, I don't want to talk all that much, but I'm just going to give a super quick example. COVID, for instance, it appears based, and I don't know that I believe everything everybody says about COVID, okay? But here's one thing that seems to be a common thread. The places that have been hit the hardest are, it's not just where groups gather, but it seems to also be where people are not financially as well off as other places. They're not used to living in a healthy way, in a healthy environment. And so when it comes through their neighborhood or comes to their area, more people tend to catch it than in the wealthier, more affluent neighborhoods and areas on the planet. I'm not saying wealthy and affluent people can't catch COVID. Okay. I'm saying that they tend to maintain their health a bit better because they don't use money as an excuse to not take care of themselves. Okay. So that's a little bit kind of like Wallace Wattles is talking about here. He says rich is relative to everybody. How much rich is, how much money, much rich, how many, how much do you want? It depends on what it is you're trying to become, do, and have. And for every one of us, that's going to be a different amount, and we shouldn't judge each other for that. Somebody wants to play a piano versus somebody wants to play baseball. Hey, the cost for the different things necessary to learn how to do both of those things are going to be different. So the amount of money necessary to do that would be different, right? The main thing is Wallace Wattles is teaching us how to have however much it is that we need and want so that we can become all we can become, do all that we want to do, and have what it is we really want to have. Moral and spiritual greatness is possible only to those who are above the competitive battle for existence. And only those who are becoming rich on the plane of creative thought are free from the degrading influences of competition. If your heart is set on domestic happiness, remember that love flourishes best where there's refinement, a high level of thought, and freedom from corrupting influences. And these are to be found only where riches are attained by the exercise of creative thought. without strife or rivalry. You can aim at nothing so great or noble, I repeat, as to become rich. And you must fix your attention upon your mental picture of riches to the exclusion of all that may tend to dim or obscure your vision. You must learn to see the underlying truth in all things. You must see beneath all seemingly wrong conditions the great one life ever moving forward toward fuller expression and more complete happiness. It is the truth that there is no such thing as poverty, that there is only wealth. That's the truth that you're going to decide for yourself. Okay. You could, and Wallace has talked about this. It's what it is that we have show up to us is based upon what it is that we're thinking and feeling, and what our basic subconscious programming has been over time. And our subconscious has put most things on autopilot. So what we have to do is reprogram our subconscious mind to actually accept what it is that we really want in our life as being normal for us, so that it can then reject what currently is in physical manifestation, so that we can then manifest something better, and so that our subconscious mind will actually help us do it. Some people remain in poverty because they're ignorant of the fact that there's wealth for them. And these can best be taught by showing them the way to affluence in your own person and practice. Others are poor because while they feel there is a way out, they're too intellectually indolent to put forth the mental effort necessary to find the way and travel by it. And for those, the very best thing you can do is arouse their desire by showing them the happiness that comes from being rightly rich, creatively rich, not competitively rich. Okay. Others still are poor because while they have some notion of science, they have become so swamped and lost in the maze of metaphysical and occult theories that they do not know which road to take. They try a mixture of many systems and fail in all. For these, again, the very best thing to do is show the right way in your own person and practice. An ounce of doing things is worth a pound of theorizing. The very best thing you can do for the whole world is to make the most of yourself. Okay? Become the best that you can be. You can serve God and man in no more effective way than by getting rich. And again, what? Okay, what? Remember the reason for getting rich. It's so that you have the use of things. Why do you want the use of things? To help you develop into everything you can become, let you have the opportunity to do the things you truly want to do, and so that you can have the things you truly want to have. It's not strictly about accumulation, okay? It's about freedom. It's about understanding how the laws of the universe work in relationship to attracting what you want in your life. So the most effective way that you can help God and man is by learning that process and by getting rich. Actually, not just knowing it on an intellectual level, but actually practicing it in your life so that other people see that, oh my gosh, they're getting results. They must know what they're doing. And they don't seem to be competitive. They seem to be pretty cool people. They seem to be very nice. They seem to be very grounded. They seem to be very peaceful and very happy, versus the crap that we see in television and the movies and whatnot, trying to portray everybody who's wealthy as a jerk. Okay. Another thing, we assert that this book gives in detail the principles of the science of getting rich. And if that is true, you do not need to read any other book upon the subject. This may sound narrow and egotistical, but consider, there is no more scientific method of computation in mathematics than by addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. No other method is possible. There can be but one shortest distance between 2 points. There is only one way to think scientifically, and that is to think in the way that leads by the most direct and simple route to the goal. No man has yet formulated a briefer or less complex system than the one set forth herein. It has been stripped of all non-essentials. When you commence on this, lay all others aside, Put them out of your mind altogether. Read this book every day. Keep it with you. Commit it to memory. And do not think about other systems and theories. If you do, you will begin to have doubts and be uncertain and wavering in your thought. And then you will begin to make failures. After you've made good and become rich, okay, so make good and become rich first. Follow this and make good and become rich first. Then you may study other systems as much as you please. But until you're quite sure that you've gained what you want, do not read anything on this line but this book, unless it be by the authors mentioned in the preface. And read only the most optimistic comments on the world's news, those in harmony with your picture, those that are in harmony of what you want your life to be like, okay? You don't want to keep thinking about garbage. You don't want to keep thinking about things that bring you misery and pain and suffering. You want to think about things that bring a smile to your face, all right? That's why, and you know what, at this point, maybe don't read hardly anything because of the way the world seems to operate. This was 1910. And even then he was warning people. Now we're in 2020, right? But he says, and read only the most optimistic comments on the world's news. Well, where are we going to find that, right? So don't look for it. If something really important has happened, somebody is going to tell you about it, okay? So listen super quickly, but don't stay there and have a conversation and get into all the ugliness of what's going on. Also, postpone your investigation into the occult. Do not dabble in theosophy, spiritualism, or kindred studies. It's very likely that the dead still live and are near, but if they are, let them alone. Mind your own business. I like that. Wherever the spirits of the dead may be, they have their own work to do and their own problems to solve, and we have no right to interfere with them. We cannot help them, and it is very doubtful whether they can help us or whether we have any right to trespass upon their time if they can. Let the dead and the hereafter alone and solve your own problem. Get rich. If you begin to mix with the occult, you will start mental cross currents which will surely bring your hopes to shipwreck. Now, this and the preceding chapters have brought us to the following statement of basic fact. Okay, there is a thinking substance. Let me pause right here. So Wallace Wattles throughout the book is going to talk about thinking substance, formless substance, intelligent substance, and usually the words or stuff, right? On a scientific level, he doesn't use these words, but think of it this way. He's talking about energy, he's talking about matter, which are essentially, that's the same thing, just two different ways of describing it, energy and matter. So he's basically saying there's stuff from which everything's made, and it is thinking stuff. That's something you may not have considered. And what do we mean by thinking stuff? It responds to our intelligence. You and me and every other person on the planet have the ability to come up with our own new thoughts. We're not like the animals that's run strictly on instinct, okay? We're actually able to formulate new thoughts and we're able to create from those thoughts. The thinking stuff, though, responds to us, and through it, it influences everything, okay? Because it is connected with everything. So in its interacting with everything, by us putting out the thought, which will create a feeling, excuse me, which will create a vibration. If that feeling that we have feels good to us, we can know for sure that what it is that we're emanating and therefore what it is that will come back to us will be something we like. If we are thinking something that makes us feel bad, we can be certain that if we continue in doing those things and thinking that way, we're going to receive back that which we will not like, okay? So that's the thinking stuff, original substance, formless substance, matter, energy, one and the same, okay? There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. Get a quick sip of water here. just a different form of energy. The cup and the water, two different, same energy, different forms. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. Okay. Not always directly, but it will cause a ripple effect, which will lead the thinking substance to go to work to help connect with everybody and bring you what it is that you want, which will also bring them what they want. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. However, in order to do this, man must pass from the competitive to the creative mind. He must form a clear mental picture of the things he wants and hold this picture in his thoughts with the fixed purpose to get what he wants and the unwavering faith that he does get what he wants, closing his mind against all that may tend to shake his purpose, dim his vision, or quench his faith. And in addition to all this, we shall now see that he must live and act in a certain way. Okay, so we're going to stop the reading at this point here, come off screen share. And anybody out there, here's essentially how this works, okay? Anybody who wants to share a comment, maybe an aha, maybe their experience utilizing the law of attraction, creating wealth in their life, whatnot, you're welcome to do so, and or ask questions. So the first person who speaks, they will go, and then the next person, and so forth. And in about 5 or 6, 7 minutes, we will end the official meeting, and then I'll probably continue on for another 15 minutes or so. All right. Who's got any questions or comments that would like to start? Everybody got shy all of a sudden. So I guess every person out there has all the money they want and all the wealth that they want.
Hi, Kevin. I have a question.
Okay.
I wanted to know when you say hold the picture, I'm having trouble. Like for me, I want a 4-bedroom house
Okay.
with a 2-car garage and a black top, and I already have the rooms like labeled like a yoga room office.
Awesome.
Um,
Okay.
but I just can't like keep the picture without getting mad that I'm still in my
I
apartment.
got, okay. Okay. Awesome. I bet you others are going through the same thing. Okay. So I might ask you a few questions if you're okay with that. Okay. When you think of your house, beside one, you're feeling bad about it. That's not good, but I get it. You're feeling bad because there's this frustration of that's what I really want, but this is what I really have. First
Right.
of all, that's what you're telling me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, one of the things that you're going to need to do is
Mhm.
come to the conclusion, and you're like, this is going to sound a little weird, but you're going to need to come to the conclusion that the life that you're living right now is actually phony.
Yeah.
The life that you want is actually your real life. Okay.
Ooh.
Now let's talk a little bit about how you do that. When you think of the house, it sounds obviously like you've gotten pretty detailed, which is terrific. Definitely good stuff. Okay. So what I would say here in this case is, let me ask you a question. When you see the house, do you see a house or do you live in the house?
I just see the house.
Yeah. Okay. So here's your next step. Do this each morning and do this each night.
Hmm.
You already know exactly what you would like in the house. You're going to have to use your imagination now, but I'm sure you've seen enough pictures already that are very similar to what you want. Or maybe if you're an artist, you've drawn them. I don't know, right? You have a pretty good concept of what this house would be like if you had it. You've seen it online, or maybe you've even walked through houses similar. Okay, great. First 5-10 minutes when you wake up, or actually let's talk about tonight since that'll come first. Okay.
Hmm.
The last 5 or 10 minutes before you go to bed,
Hmm.
close your eyes and go walk into your house.
Mm.
Walk through your house and go pick a place in the house. Walk through your house like as if you're taking a tour of the house,
Mhm.
but don't do it as if you're watching yourself doing it. You are not watching a movie.
Mm.
You are in the movie. So in other words, if you're walking in front of you, you might see your hands, you might see your feet, you might see your legs. You're not going to see your face, right? The only way you would see your face in that house is if you walk into a bathroom, probably, right? And then you would see your face in a mirror, which is fine. But you're not watching you walk around through a house like you're watching a movie. You are in the house, walking through the house. Okay.
Okay.
Then what I would do is pick a particular room or place in the house, backyard, wherever, garage, doesn't, pick something in the house about the house exactly as you want it, and go do what it is you would be doing if you already own the house.
Mm.
For instance, well, you got Christmas and Thanksgiving coming up, right?
Yes.
Go into your house and have Christmas in that house.
Wow. That's good.
Okay. Now, you don't do this one time. You go do this daily. You do it in the morning and you do it at night. And actually, you do it as often as you could throughout the day that's practical for you, okay? Depending
Okay.
on work schedules and what your life is like. The other thing you want to do is you want to get rid of anything that's in opposition to that around you. So you don't want to read stuff that basically says, yeah, that you can't do it. You don't want to be
Right.
around people that tell you you can't. You don't want to read things that say you can't. And you don't want to try for now to figure out how to make that happen. You'll drive yourself nuts because you don't know how. If you knew how, you'd have done it already.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not the start. As it becomes really clear to you and you start feeling it, it'll start to feel like, again, this is not my life. That is, right?
Mm.
I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Family Man.
No.
Okay. Anyhow, this guy is kind of transported out of the life he was living into a slightly different one. And he's there and he knows that's not his life, but everybody around him, right? But for him, that's not his life. And he knows, he even says, this isn't my life. This isn't my house. This isn't my, and his wife, who he didn't have a wife before, but she's like, cut it out, kind of thing. But he knew deep, he was like, no, this is not my life. This isn't what I was meant to do, who I am, what I'm supposed to become. I've already done this. Now, he'd already had some success. This had brought him backwards. But interestingly enough, in his new scenario, he started doing things that actually was bringing him more success.
Mm.
Interestingly enough. So I'm just giving you a starting point. Stick with us as much as you can each day, and you'll get more and more, and learn more and more with what we're talking about here. But hopefully that at least gives you a start of going, okay, that feels better to me than what it has been that you've been doing.
Okay. Now I have one more question. Do I purchase things that I would buy, like, because I just started
Potentially,
doing?
yes, as long as it feels good.
Okay.
Here, I've done both. Okay, I've done things like that, and it felt good. And I've done
Yeah.
things like that where I had all this buzz. I'll give you a very specific example. This is years ago, but Disneyland. Okay, it felt good and right to go to Disneyland at this particular time. It's not like there's a ton of money around at the time, but because I felt good about it, interestingly enough, while I was at Disneyland, I manifested a sale in my particular business that I didn't think was going to happen then. And I made $10,000 while I was at Disneyland.
Wow. So
Okay.
good thing
So,
you
which
went
is
to
pretty awesome. All right. Now I'll
Yeah.
go to Disneyland and make money while I was gone. But there's also been a time where I went to Disneyland, but my wife didn't think it was a good idea. We should this, that. And I let all this other stuff instead of being in the mindset I was that first time. And when I went, I didn't enjoy it as much. And it didn't really, when I came home, like there was a little more strife and money was a little tougher. And it was like, okay, why is this? Why is it that it works? So if you purchase something, the key is you have to be able to feel good about the purchase and you have your purpose for the purchase.
Okay.
But I will tell you that you need to also go have some fun if you're not having much fun right now.
I'm not, because I'm always thinking like, how do I get it? I'm an entrepreneur. I haven't landed my first sale. but I'm
Yeah.
seeing that as done, and I'm thinking that that's my source to pay for the house. But I remember your story about the car. It might not even, I might manifest it for free. And I'm blocking
Exactly.
the methods.
Yeah. So let's think of it this way. God is source.
Yeah.
Okay. God is source, and he utilizes channels.
Mm.
How many channels he's going to use to bring us our good depends on how many we allow.
Mm.
What we tend to do is we think of source and channel is the same thing. My particular business is the way I'll receive it because there is the possibility to make a lot of money doing that. So I got to do it. So I got to build it. And then when I built this business, I could da 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 da. And
Mm.
God could be saying, hey, if you'll chill out for a moment and quit
Mm.
trying to force it through that business because you're not ready for it in that business. But I
Mm.
can give it to you from over here.
Mm.
Matter of fact, you don't even know it, but you've got talents and abilities already that if I slide you into this because you're so dang sure that you're going to be a real estate investor, I'm not telling you not to or to,
Right.
but that's the like this is my path. I've made up my mind this is my path. And God says, okay, great, but you've got to develop in that path. You leave it
Mm.
open to me, I could send it from any direction I want. And I know deep down inside who you are and where it'll come from. Yes, you'll probably eventually succeed in that way. And you
Mm-hmm.
may get your house that way. But would
Mm-hmm.
you rather have it in, 3, 6, 9 months, or do you want to have it in 2 to 5 years?
3 to 6 weeks.
Right. Right. But that's the point I'm getting at.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Any other questions? So Jason's being quiet today. That's okay. I can see your lips moving, but you're on mute. So I don't know if you're trying to talk or not.
No, I was thinking of something. I was trying to try to figure out how to phrase it right. Um, so I kind of like the idea, or it's maybe like a mental trick for better shifting from, I don't necessarily want to say a scarcity mindset to an abundant mindset, but like an abundant mindset to a more abundant mindset. I guess that'd be
Okay.
a good way to phrase it.
So what's the question?
Just
Moving from
so
one
like
to the next?
yeah, like a mental exercise as far as like, like, I mean, I'm definitely big on, when it comes to different stuff like, brand names and designers and uh, doing that. But, within that realm, for example, there's like Tommy Hilfiger and Ralph Lauren, which are certainly nice.
But
But
there's
then,
steps.
but then there's, Burberry and Brooks Brothers.
Correct. Yeah. There's a Mercedes-Benz S-Class, which is the peak for some, but then there's a Rolls-Royce. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially that's kind of what you're saying. So how do you move from one up to the next one? What I've done is you can take it, sometimes I make bigger jumps than others, but I tend to take it in steps. I used to be concerned like, well, if I don't think of the biggest, baddest thing out there, it'll never happen. And I start to realize that, you know what, our faith builds. A little kid believes they can walk because they see someone else walking. And as that kid, starts walking, he or she'll fall down a few times, but it can tell that it's making some progress. And then after it can walk, it wants to run, right? And do other things. That's kind of how we are. We progress that way. So what is, for instance, I'm going to take us off record now. Okay.